My name's redo that. Why does it mute me and you? It wasn't muted earlier.
You sure it's not a ghost in here?
I don't
say
know.
that.
I got Ariel doesn't like
Don't do that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dear Hmong Woman segment. My name is Ariel.
My name's Emily.
And my name's Dochi.
Today, we have someone who has submitted something, and so we're going to read it out for all of you, and then we are going to react to it. So, my story. I'm a Hmong woman and come from a typical large family of 9 kids. 3 out of the 9 graduated from a 4-year college, which includes me. But out of my entire family, I'm the only one that has achieved debt freedom. Money, personal finance, investing, and debt were never topics we talked about in our family and as a community. I have found that much of the issues around why my family has debt, despite their education or big incomes, is a lack of financial literacy and their mindset around money. Some are savers and others are spenders, but neither really understand how money works. It's a business idea I'm considering to help first-generation wealth builders, particularly those new to the country, address their money mindsets and create a plan to build wealth, not just make and spend/save money. So this brings up to my head, how do you guys grow up with money, and what do you guys think about this person's story?
Yeah, we grew up not also being taught how to save money correctly, investing money, and, having a budget. We didn't grow up with that. It's kind of like we lived paycheck to paycheck. And if you have money and you can treat other people and share it, that's what you do. So that's how I was taught growing up. And so as an adult, fixing my habits and not spending money just because I have it has been something that I've been working on and doing my best to understand the importance of investing your money and saving your money.
And I want to say first off to this writer, way to go for being able to find yourself in financial freedom. A lot like you, Emily. I didn't grow up with a lot of financial tools and resources, and I don't understand money. I'm just now starting to research and figure out how to use my money. I was also just taught to save. Even to this day, whenever I'm on a call with my dad, he ends it with, as if that's going to make me richer. It is not, for those listening. But a conversation I've had with my mom most recently is how she's been wanting to learn to invest. She is also wanting to gain more knowledge and develop these tools so that money can basically make more money. And so that you don't have to focus so heavily on where is my other income coming from, passive incomes. And it's a conversation that I wish we could have more in the community. But yeah, that's how it was for me growing up.
I actually really love this because when I read this, I was like, if you make that class, I'm taking it too. Like, it's not just for first gen, right? Like, it's for all of us. Like, I feel like all of us didn't grow up with what we should have known, right? Which is stocks, how to save, how to budget. Like, those are things our families didn't talk about. And I really went deep, and I actually thought, like, what is my first money memory? And it was literally me. I don't even know if I could talk yet, but I literally remember being at the kitchen table with my mom and seeing my mom open her banking checkbook where she would keep a record of what was used each month and how much money was spent that week. So I remember like my mom crossing it off and adding everything up to see like what the expenses were for us living. And I just remember like my parents were constantly saving too. So the only time we got new clothes was once a year at Walmart. And like, I remember I couldn't relate to the other kids who got like fancy Target clothes and who got like special things. And it's like, oh, I only get clothes once a year. I thought that's how it was. I thought that was the norm that other kids experienced, but it honestly wasn't. And seeing my parents struggle and just growing up in like a basement apartment of like 800 square feet with a 1-bedroom apartment where I shared with my mom and dad and my little sister, Like, seeing my parents go through that, money was a constant thing in our life. And it really did dictate if we would eat out that week or if we would be eating the same meal every single day. Being the child of young parents, too, because my parents were really young, you could feel that hesitation and that need for money.
Yeah, and I agree. I just think I would definitely be taking that class. I know that in trying to figure out how to use your money in this world, in this economy, so that you're not just continuously waiting for the next check, it's been difficult trying to figure that out. Trying to read through these books on stocks and trying to watch videos, like it's just not clicking for me. And honestly, it's made me feel exhausted, and I almost feel like I'm incapable in this realm because I just don't understand any of the jargon. And I would love to have like a starters beginners class on how to dive into the stocks market, or how crypto works, or whatever, any of that, just general knowledge that I feel I should have gotten from a much younger age. Because yeah, just like you, Ariel, my parents didn't know either. I remember my dad was just always working all the time. Like, my parents are hard workers, but I really wish that they also had the tools to learn how to make their money work for them.
I think one really big thing that I wanted to bring up too when reading this was the scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset for money. So growing up, my family definitely had that scarcity mindset around money because I would go to my grandma's house and there were so many things that she would do and that my aunts would do where I'd be like, why are they doing that? Whether it was using and keeping the same old paper towels or putting tinfoil over the oven because they didn't want it, or what is it called, the stovetop, to make sure it didn't get dirty, or never using the nice china or nice glassware because they wanted to wait for a special event. Those sort of things bring on scarcity because you're scared that that thing is never going to last and you'll never get more. So I just bring that up because I've gotten to a point where I am learning about stocks. I am learning about these things. And because I'm learning about these things, it does bring up old memories of how we've treated money in the past and how my family has viewed it.
My parents grew up with the scarcity mindset. I'm pretty sure a lot of elders did too, which is why when they got the abundance of money that they were getting, although it still wasn't enough money to support a big family, it was still more money than they had before. And so that's why it was kind of like, if they have extra money after paying the bills and feeding their kids, where can it go? And we know that as a Hmong community, right, or mochona, you give money. And so, it's that community part too, is whenever there was a community event that they could give money to, they would. And I know that that's my mindset too, is like, okay, I know I have enough now, and I also have enough to give to this fundraiser or give to this person who needs it. And I know that that's my mindset. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best for me, but I think that the more financial literacy courses that we have for individuals, and especially elders, right? Because we're not just thinking about how we can take care of ourselves now as younger people, but especially in retirement for folks who are receiving retirement money or Social Security money, how can they make their money last for them? And that kind of financial literacy is just as important, especially if we're talking about end of life, when you have a will and you're trying to give your kids, your assets, so you're understanding how that money works for them too, and the taxes that they would get from the money that you're giving them from your end of life plan. So
I do agree. I think it's not just going to be for first gen. I think it's going to be for a lot of different individuals, because I also think about, when I say "Yaneng Lawa," I'm thinking about my parents, and I think it would benefit them so much as it would also benefit me in understanding like credit even. I know that growing up, when I first opened my first credit card ever, because I took this very basic personal finance course as an elective in high school, and that taught me the differences between a credit card and a debit card. And it sounds so simple, but then when I got out of high school, I realized that people couldn't differentiate the differences between those two, which is also why then a lot of individuals got themselves into debt with credit cards. And I had this conversation with my dad, And he was telling me, God, you need a credit card. If you have a credit card, you're just going to end up in debt, and it's going to give you in a lot of like troubles and a lot of problems. But in my head, I'm thinking, but I think this is the only way I can get credit. And I don't know how to get credit without having a credit card. And I don't know. I just think that so many of us can learn from a course like this. And you know what? Worst case scenario is maybe the first course isn't the best. You learn from it, you develop it, and you share more. Like, I just don't see how this wouldn't benefit the community and yourself. Financial literacy is definitely something that we lack in the community.
So with this, how has your past experience with money and how your family has viewed it, how has that now showed up in your life?
Yeah, so right now, because I didn't grow up with like people teaching me how to budget, and all I heard growing up was just you need to make more money because that's important, right? Obviously, that doesn't teach you how to take care of your finances. So right now, I take care of my own finances. I have like a really extensive spreadsheet that I keep that tracks each month and each paycheck and how much goes to each paycheck, how much goes into each savings account. I have 3 different sinking funds that takes care of each of my bills. So one sinking fund is for my car, one sinking fund is for my credit cards, one sinking fund is for my rent. And like essentially what that means is I just put money in there because I know money's going to go out. And that way I know what my actual budget is for the rest of my paycheck period. And then from there I budget, okay, what's going to groceries, what's going to bills, what's going here and there. So I really, really tried my best to implement a financial point in my life that I didn't get growing up. So right now I take care of my finances like to a T. And I check my bank account every other day because I need to know, okay, were there any surprises, finances that I forgot about? Or do I have more money than I expected? And can I put that into a savings account? And I hope to actually invest in stocks once I learn that a little bit more about that. But that's been very recent this year.
I think I'm at the very beginner stages too, because when I think about it, I'm literally at the Roth IRA budgeting and like high yield savings account. Like, I feel like I'm all like taking baby steps because I feel like I don't want to be overwhelmed. But that's just a realistic part of it, is like when we don't grow up with like help and resources to make us understand like how to keep wealth and how to build wealth, it really does become challenging, because not only are you dealing with your present day stuff, but you're also dealing with everything else that we talked about, right? Which is the money mindsets that we grew up with. So yeah, it's honestly been a challenge, but it's something that I'm willing to learn and that I want to learn, because money unfortunately runs the world. And if you don't get a handle on it, then it truly isn't going to make your financial situation better. And it also reminded me of my one memory that I had with my mom is when I got out of high school, the one thing she said to me was, you should get a credit card. But she never explained like why. And I was like, oh, like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to get a credit card. And like, I didn't end up getting a credit card until maybe a year after. But I just knew that's like the one thing my mom knew to tell me that she thought she could help me, was just that one thing. And me to myself, that makes me a little sad when I think about it, is that that's the only thing our parents had, and that's the only thing my mom could give to me. But that's okay, because I want to, be able to learn those things on my own. And it really does, push you to want to invest in yourself a little bit more.
I want to say that a lot of the things I've learned, I feel have been very accidental, like accidental run-ins, accidental points of knowledge. And one of them is I had a old coworker when I was going to college who started her part-time job at this, like, it was Prime America. And it was like an insurance company, and she wanted me to come in and see if she can do like a mock interview kind of run through with me. And she was just looking for volunteers. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I can definitely do that. So I came in, I brought my ex at that time. And in that moment, or in that session, we both signed up for our first like IRAs and invested into life insurance. And I'm not going to lie to you, sitting there, she tried her best to explain it. Not just the girl that had invited me in, she also had her boss afterwards to follow up if we wanted to open an account. And I was like, yeah, I don't see like how that could hurt. And she was trying to describe the differences between term and life insurances. And I was like, to this day, my mama's still trying to teach me.
It's overwhelming.
And I'm like, there's so much going on here. Like, I know you're trying to help, but I'm a very visual learner. And when there's too many words, I get exhausted. I'm just like, hold on. And that's how I really felt about it. But I knew that it would probably be better for me to invest than not to. So that's when I opened, and that was my first time, I want to say, consciously investing into something and putting my money into something instead of just my bank account where there was no interest being built, where there was just no money moving. Whatever was put in is whatever is coming out. And then I had another experience. I forgot how I came about this, where I learned how you can build your child's wealth and credit before they are even eligible to open their own credit card. And actually, I learned this from my ex family. Their dad, my ex-father-in-law, is, I want to say, a very intelligent man. He loves learning, and I think because he came from not ever having anything, he also has the mindset of wanting to do his best for his kids. And so I think maybe to them it was a lot of jargon, but for me, also having been someone who I've always wanted some kind of guidance, and I love it when I can get it. And that's why I really appreciate my elders. And one thing I learned from my ex's dad was, let's say you're a parent and you're opening up a credit card, you can have, I think, your child as like a credit card holder or something. And of course, making sure that you keep your credit at a good standing. And so that helps to build your child's credit card or credit. And you can also open, a Roth or some type of investment for your kids so that by the time they're of age, they'll have something to hold on to. And I thought about all these things and how I wish, my parents knew about this, because I don't know how much wealthier we would be now, where we would be instead of starting from scratch. But I'm just happy to have been able to run into that in order to pass that all along to my kids, and being conscious of that and wanting to also learn. Because now that my little brother's here, I'm overly conscious of all these things, and I don't want him to have to go through the hardships that I've gone through, or feeling like he has to start from scratch. I do want him to have a good life. And therefore, I feel that, in a sense, it's my responsibility to also learn about these things and hopefully have him set up for success in the future and have those tools available to him. So yeah.
Talking about income people or money for other people, I found this really interesting stat too, where the income per person for the Hmong was $7,210 in 2000, and this increased to $24,003 in 2021. And this is from the empoweringstrategies.org article. That's crazy. It's not even middle class, folks. It's crazy. I'd never realized how crazy it is that Hmong people in general just don't make enough. Like, I thought, for some reason, I had thought that, like, we were making a lot more money than, like, 24 grand each person. And this was, like, 3 years ago, in 2021. It's crazy. But yeah, I just put that out there, too, as, like, what do you guys think of that statistic?
I wish I could pull it up. I briefly saw something on my socials the other day, and it was some kind of stats or numbers on the median households, like the amount of money each household is making. And it was like California, generally Minnesota and Cali, and it was being compared against other like Asian households. So that supposedly Hmong people are making like household wise making more as compared to like Japanese and Taiwanese individuals in the United States.
That's actually, well, how much was it per household then? Do you remember?
Think for Hmong homes, it was like 74,000 median or something like that. I wish I could pull it up so that I can actually refer to it. Because the thing is, I was just scrolling, but when you said that, it made me think about that piece.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to talk about too, because for some reason I thought we were just making more money, and I think it's actually really saddening to think that 3 years ago, one Hmong person And I don't know if this was, in state or nationally, honestly. I have the reference article right here and I have to go back to it. But I just think it's really crazily low how much we're still making right now. And I don't know if that's naive to think, but I just thought we would be making so much more per person.
Yeah, I just pulled it up here from the website, usafacts.org. Income per household. Hmong people average income was 80,000. Vietnamese people are right under that at 78,000. Same for Thai and Nepalese. Laotian average income was 76,000. Cambodian was 75. Bangladeshi is 66. Burmese is 62. And this is the median household income by Asian ethnicity 2021. I'm not surprised by that number that you gave out. I mean, just thinking about how we grew up in our peers, right? How many of them and their families were struggling for paycheck to paycheck. And of course, there were families that weren't struggling who were making a certain amount of money. But we also have to understand that the dollar today doesn't stretch as far as the dollar did before a decade ago.
Amen.
So, we can be making, right? I'm considered middle class with my income right now as a single person. But that dollar doesn't stretch as far as a middle class person's dollar would have 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we have to account for inflation. Yeah. We also have to account for interest rates when we're talking about paying off debt, especially with credit card and student loans. And so overall, that's something that if I were to take a financial literacy course that I think people need to understand. We're just taught you should have a high credit score, you should have a savings account, and you should invest. What people don't talk about is how the taxes get you, how the interest rates get you, and then what predatory loans are and how those loans and those interest rates can also affect your credit score and affect how you pay back that money. But then people also don't talk about, okay, well, when I do taxes, how do I claim it, right? If you're a married couple, do I do married filing single or married filing jointly, right? There's a difference between those two, and those tax brackets are different as well. And so when we talk about financial literacy, we're not just talking about here's how you make money and then here's how you budget. Mm-hmm. We're talking about all aspects of, well, how do these multiple different bubbles affect how I can invest my money, how I can budget my money? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I would want when talking about a financial literacy course, because I think, I forget where I read this, but it was like a single American has taken out at least one loan. Right. And so do you understand the purpose of that loan? Do you understand the interest rates of that loan? Do you understand the terms of the loan and how long you have to pay it back? Right. And so those kinds of things for financial literacy is just as important to gain financial freedom. A lot of the times, as Dochi said earlier, right, a lot of the times when people are teaching you, they expect you to just pick it up right away. But you have to give it in bite-sized, portions. But you also have to break it down to layman's terms and really teach people like, okay, well, when you do X, here's what happens to Y and Z. So,
yeah, that was great. That was amazing insight. Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I just think about like how many of your elders, like Lamuyotjena for the first time, mm-hmm. do they really understand the terms of their mortgage?
Oh, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Do they understand what property taxes are and how sometimes your mortgage, after a year, your mortgage can increase, even though you were told at the beginning of buying a home, you'd be paying $1,000 for mortgage. But then all of a sudden, a year after, this term kicks in and now you're paying $1,500 for your mortgage every month instead of $1,000, right? Do people understand those kind of things when it comes to their finances? So,
or even just a smaller thing, like when I put down a loan for my car, a used car, like I knew it was for 5 years of my life. But like I didn't get into the nitty gritty of like the interest rates and all that because I just didn't know how to ask for that.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. And like when you go and refinance your car, mm-hmm. You have to technically reapply for a loan again, right? And people think that when you finish your financing or your lease that you can just buy it out. No, you have to understand what the loan terms are for that, and that you have to reapply for a loan as well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us for this podcast episode. We're really excited to be getting more of these submissions. Comment below some of your money memories or money strategies because we'd love to learn more from you. So thank you, and like, subscribe, and share for more.